Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock, they're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose, even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math, it's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other, please add a word to your mother. They're from the best decades, movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun, action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions three, come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math, it's the 30-something movie podcast.
It's the 30-something movie podcast. It's your host, John Reed. I am the friendliest of ghosts, and I have with me here my other ghostly friends. First of all, we've got Boo Warmbolt.
Boo.
There we go. How are you doing, Bo?
I'm well, John. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And I've also got with me Patrick Cantagallos. So our episode this evening is Casper, the friendly ghost from 1995, just called Casper, because this is a darker, grittier Casper. This is the Batman versus Superman version of Casper, where I have some comments about this one. I hadn't seen this one since I was a kid, so it was interesting to watch again as an adult because I noticed some things that I'm not sure I would have noticed as a kid, and I have thoughts as we usually tend to do. So we'll dive right on into this one real quickly for anybody listening. At the time of recording, we are possibly approaching a winter storm here in the Chicago area. So if at some point you hear anyone on this call scream and I forget to edit it out, it's because the schools have said we're closed tomorrow.
And we can all sleep in.
And we are all very excited and can sleep in. So yes, I think we're pretty constantly, we've got the website that announces the emergency school closings open on our phones, and I think we're just like constantly refreshing. And I've told my wife if I get a call or if I get an email from work, or if I get a call from our notification system, and she hears a very loud woohoo coming from the basement, then she knows that at least I don't have school tomorrow.
There'll be no school tomorrow. No school tomorrow.
There is no school in America, and the streets are paved with cheese. That's a combination of two really good things.
There's a lot I could say to that statement.
Speaking of somebody who loves cheese, Pat, when I introduced you earlier, you weren't there. I thought maybe you didn't appreciate I thought at first you didn't appreciate the pun I was trying to use with regard to your name, and I was like, wow, tough crowd.
I'm really sorry. And then everyone's like, oh my God, did he fall asleep at the beginning of the pod?
I was like, that's a new record for Pat.
I was going to say, and the other night, man, I hung on as long as I could. I swear to God, guys, I tried. I tried.
Pat, we love you, and there's no expectations.
All right. I'm sorry. I had to go upstairs to check on the status of homework and kids. And
is homework being done?
Homework has been done. Past tense.
Oh, excellent. That's excellent. So you got to be Patrick the friendly dad.
I got to be Patrick the friendly dad. Exactly. But I missed your pun, and I apologize.
No, I was trying to use ghostly names for everybody. So it was Boo Warmbold, and you were Patrick Cantagallos.
Cantagallos. I like that.
Yeah. So,
I would imagine that some of my band students would have been calling me something ghostly today.
Oh, yeah? Yeah? Was it a rough day with the band?
No, it's never a rough day. I'll tell you, the 8th grade, we're locked in. I mean, that's a good crew. And it's like they're working, and it's great. 7th grade, I mean, we're coming together, and they can be a little rambunctious. Sometimes they just.
I bet it was the 6th graders.
Well, the sixth graders, and in all honesty, there's really good kids in there. There's a lot, but they just have some growing up to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes they push. And then, it's, well, I don't want to do spoilers for Yellowstone. So there we go. Spoilers for Yellowstone. But, when John Dutton is running, I'm just saying spoilers for Yellowstone, everybody. And John Dutton makes his campaign speech when he's nominated for governor or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he says, I've been hearing a lot about progress. That's not me. I am what did he say? I am the bulwark against which progress crashes, or somehow he had some eloquent line. That was it. That was that kind of had to be me today. Like, okay, this is not what we're going to do. Right. And so there was a little bit of it got a little somber, but I think they understood and it all went well. And all that kind of stuff.
You got to do what you got to do.
You know what? Unfortunately, you do. Yeah. You really do. Well, but it's okay.
Yeah. Our movie this time around, as I said, is Casper from 1995. It's a fun movie. Basically, it's like a dead Peter Pan. He's not getting any older, and he's a ghost boy. It's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's not quite a way I've ever thought about it, but there you go.
But hey, whatever works.
I try to bring, if nothing else, I try to bring fresh perspectives to the podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And much like Casper, this podcast is going to get fresh.
This is going to get fresh.
Yeah. I have comments. I have things that I need to say about this movie because I noticed things this time that I did not notice when I watched it 30 years ago. So Casper's an interesting little character in this one.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't fit with the cartoon Casper that I recall watching as a kid. Casper's a bit how do the kids say it? He's a bit thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even some of the language used by the antagonists. What's her name? I can't remember the character's name. But
Kerrigan.
Yeah, I struggled a minute.
Kurgan.
What rating did this have? I'm sure it's in your.
Yeah, oddly enough, it was PG.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's PG-ish. It's not. There's nothing that would take it into PG-13.
Right. I guess it surprised me being Casper. In my head, I was watching a G-rated kids movie, but I think we discussed in one of our recent episodes about what even comes with a G rating anymore.
Right. There is no G anymore. So be warned, we spoil. As we are talking, we will spoil things about this or possibly other movies. If you haven't so far, head on over to our website, 30podcast.com, where you can leave us a rating, a voicemail, and you could become a co-executive producer over there if you join us over on Patreon, and a bunch of folks have, and thank you so much to our Patreon folks over there. They really, really help out. That is where you can get bonus content over there, especially if you are joining us by donating to the show and helping us keep things running. So very, very appreciative of all of our friends over there. And looking forward to, we've actually got one of our Patreon folks is going to be joining us here in just a couple of weeks. We're doing our 10th anniversary rewatch episode of E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And Podrick is going to try to join us for that one. Podrick from Ireland. And he has never seen E.T. So I think that will be exciting. A first time.
That's cool.
We had Jason a couple years ago that was the first time viewer of It's a Wonderful Life, and then Podrick having never watched ET before, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, that blew me away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
It will be very interesting to hear.
I'll be curious.
Through fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Like what that's like.
Yeah. Watching ET in 2025 versus 1982.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. All right, release date on this one was May 26, 1995, rated PG with a runtime of 1 hour, 41 minutes, directed by Brad Silberling. He did City of Angels, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, the 2004 version. Writers were Sherry Stoner and Deanna Oliver. They did Tiny Toon Adventures and Animaniacs. Producer was Colin Wilson, who did Jurassic Park and War of the Worlds, the 2005 version. Composer was James Horner. We've heard of him before. He did Titanic, Braveheart, Rocketeer, and a ton of other things. Aliens, a bunch of other stuff. Cinematographer was Dean Cundy. He did Back to the Future and Jurassic Park. Editor was Michael Kahn. He did Raiders of the Lost Ark and Schindler's List. So there's like no shortage of big-time people working on this movie.
Yeah, and just a shout out James Horner. This is the second movie he scored that we've done this year.
Yes. Yeah. He's he's a busy man.
He has a plethora of credits.
You could say he has a plethora, and you would, even if you didn't know what that meant, you'd still be true. It'd still be accurate. Production companies were Amblin Entertainment and the Harvey Entertainment Company. Budget was $55 million. Box office was $287.9 million. Flick Metrics gives it a 62, and the Cinema Score gives it an A. Christina Ricci played Kat Harvey. She was in The Addams Family and Sleepy Hollow. Bill Pullman was Dr. James Harvey. He was in Independence Day and While You Were Sleeping. Malachi Pearson did the voice of Casper. He was in Suburban Commando and the TV series Family Matters.
I was frozen today.
What's that?
I was frozen today.
I was frozen today. Kathy Moriarty played Kerrigan Crittenden. She was in Raging Bull and Kindergarten Cop. Eric Idle was Paul Dibbs Plutzker. He was in Monty Python and the Holy Grail and Nuns on the Run. I do want to give a quick update here. I don't know if I shared with you guys or not. I did show Nora a little while ago, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. She mostly enjoyed it up until the end, and then the end kind of boggled her mind enough that she did not enjoy it. She thought that was a ridiculous ending, which I tried to explain was the point, but it's okay.
That's exactly right. It was a ridiculous ending. She is not wrong.
No, she's not wrong. But enough time had passed, and she and I were the only ones home the other night, and so I said, hey, we got some pizza. You want to put on a movie? She's like, yeah, I want to watch La La Land. Okay, I don't. So let me give you some other suggestions.
What's wrong with La La Land?
No, nothing is wrong with it. I actually have wanted to watch it. I have not watched it yet. And no,
You've never seen it?
No. And so I absolutely did want to watch it, and we made a deal. We're like, okay, here, the one I'm going to pick for us is not very long, so let's just do both. Like, we'll do the one I'm going to pick, and then we'll watch La La Land after. So we did. We did a double feature. Get ready for the weirdest double feature you've ever heard of. We did Life of Brian and then La La Land.
Oh, my God.
And
that's outstanding.
And I will say, I think Monty Python is redeemed in her eyes because a kid who is in Latin classes and loves Latin, that is her favorite class of all, she loved the Latin conjugation scene in Life of Brian. So I think that redeemed Monty Python for her. So I was very happy.
There you go. And now for something completely different.
And then we watched La La Land, and that was good too. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
So Eric Idle made me think of that. So Joe Napoti did the voice of Stretch. He was in Blank Man and The Replacements. Joe Alasky did the voice of Stinky. He was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Looney Tunes Back in Action. Brad Garrett did the voice of Fatso. He was in Everybody Loves Raymond and Ratatouille. Devon Sawa did Human Casper. He was in Final Destination. Oh, that's ironic. And then Now and Then. Amy Brenneman. What's that?
No and then.
Amy Brenneman was Amelia Harvey. She was in Heat and The Leftovers TV series. Ben Stein played Mr. Rugg. He was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Mask. And Chauncey Lepardi was Nikki, was in The Sandlot and Freaks and Geeks, the TV series. Some of the trivia I had, and maybe this is true. Casper was the first feature film to have a fully CGI lead character.
I think that gets a little sticky when you try to define lead character, but I can see what they're trying to say.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, well, yeah, because you had. I'm trying to think of other lead characters that would have been CGI, and Jar Jar was. I don't know that you want to call Jar Jar a lead character. He's not the lead character, so maybe that's the difference. So
he's certainly not the title character.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's where it gets sticky is how you find lead character.
So at this point, we can't disagree with it because we're not 100% certain, but good for them. Steven Spielberg, whose Amblin Entertainment produced the movie.
You may have heard of him.
He's done a couple of little things here and there. He originally wanted Tim Burton to direct this movie.
That would have turned into a different movie.
It would have. It would have been a slightly different flavor to it. Would have been interesting, but I feel like it would have been
100%.
Would have been a little different. Yeah. The house, Whipstaff Manor, was modeled after the work of the famous architect Antoni Gaudi, and the movie had multiple cameo appearances. That includes Dan Aykroyd in his Ghostbusters character Ray Stantz. There was the scene with let's see who all was in it. I think
Father Guido Sarducci.
It was, well, yeah, that was my favorite one.
Yes.
And that one, even as a kid, I feel like I got that one, and my other friends that had seen this had not. And it was only because we watched old Saturday Night Live all the time.
It takes a special kid to get a Father Guido. Like, that's that's a joke for the parents.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Your kid dragged you to this movie.
Yes.
Here.
Right. Here you go. Thank you for buying the ticket.
Right.
Here you go. Here's Don Novello.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that scene. And as an adult, I had completely forgotten that he shows up in this movie. So when he shows up at the beginning and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, this is outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen this since I was a kid, and I don't remember if I enjoyed this movie. I think I probably did, but the fact that it starts with Father Guido Sarducci, that when they get to the haunted house, I'm like, nope, I'm good now. I think I'm fine.
I'm with you. I was not. I full disclosure, was not amped up to watch this.
Yeah,
I was just sort of like, okay, it's Kids Month, got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you, man, Father Guido. All right.
If I go ahead, bro. I'm sorry, man.
I just say no. I'm feeling it. All right, I'm there.
I love the cameos. I'll tell you, when Ray Stantz appeared, I thought that was great. Like, I was kind of watching this and kind of like doing other stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, is that Ray Stantz? Now, here's the funny part. This tells you I was watching the movie with a modern lens. Ray Stantz came out, and immediately I'm like, okay, this movie's awesome. And then there was, like, for the briefest fraction of a second, I was like, so does that make this movie canonical Ghostbusters? And then all of a sudden it was like the moment passed, and I'm like, what am I doing? This was 30 years ago. This is when they did stuff like that in movies just because it was fun. Not because, oh my God, that means that world is linked. And in one of the sequels, so-and-so is going to appear. And that means that but it just goes to show you like how much the way like modern movies are all interconnected. And it's all like, well, this applies to here and this is there. And that Easter egg means this. And that means that this is linked to that kind of. And so my like gut reaction when I saw that was, this is canonical Ghostbusters. Oh, wait, no. This is the 1990s, and it's just there to be fun. Okay, calm down.
So you want to follow?
I think it's in the same universe as Ghostbusters. I'm with you.
So you want to follow? If you want to follow that logic, then the fact that Father Guido Sarducci is in this, I did look up what are some other shows he's been in.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, and I don't know if we want to call this the Guido verse or the Sarducci verse, or I don't know, whatever cinematic universe. He has had crossovers in the TV series Blossom. He was in an episode of Married with Children. He was in several different episodes of other TV shows. So then I guess canonically, Blossom, Married with Children, Ghostbusters, and Casper are all in the same universe.
Jeez.
Works for me.
And
yeah.
And I guess Father Guido Sarducci is the anchor character.
Mm-hmm.
So if he dies, the whole reality goes away.
Well, it's like my mother always said, there's always something.
So he is the one thing that, and I'm skipping kind of one of the first few scenes of this one, and we'll get into that here in a second. But the one thing that watching it this time, I was like, huh. For the most part, now granted, I know this is going to be about like cartoon ghosts, so I got to like suspend disbelief a little bit. But the fact that he gets his head twisted all the way around and is still alive, like that part, I was like, huh. Are we going then with cartoon physics, or can people actually die? Or I might have been taking some of that too seriously as an adult.
Yeah.
Easy to do with a movie like this, I think.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. Oh, and the other appearances were in the scene where Dr. Harvey is looking in the mirror. I think Clint Eastwood, Rodney Dangerfield, and Mel Gibson also appear.
Oh, yeah.
So that was also fun. And we know it was them because at this point the CGI and AI did not exist or was not good enough to reproduce them. So think
Right.
we know that the three of them actually showed up for this, as far as we can tell.
Which
Oh yeah.
honestly makes it even crazier
I know.
that they got them to show up for that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
who made that call? Who pulled that off?
Yeah. Fun stuff. That's one thing about this movie, and we'll get into kind of our thoughts and opinions on it in just a little bit. But there was plenty of stuff this movie wasn't afraid to try.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what no matter what your opinion is of it, no matter what your opinion is of the movie, like it swung for the fences in a lot of different ways.
Oh yeah.
No. All right. In a world where ghosts haunt the living, one friendly spirit just wants a friend. When Cat Harvey and her father, Dr. James Harvey, move into the eerie Whipstaff Manor, they discover Casper, an unlikely companion in a house full of mischievous ghosts. As they uncover secrets from beyond, they'll find that friendship can even transcend death. But will Casper finally get his chance to be human again? All right, major moments for this one. Every time I see her name, Kerrigan, I want to say the Kurgan.
Yeah.
But that's a very different character.
Release the Kraken.
Right. So if I slip up and accidentally refer to her as the Kraken, or I claim that at some point in the movie she said something about, it's better to burn out than fade away, which she does later in the movie. It's just because reading is fundamental, and I sometimes don't do it well. Spoiled heiress Kerrigan, I think it's her name too. It's not helpful. Kerrigan Crittenden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
that's
like
a bit
they
much.
were being very mean by doing that.
Right. You can tell. I mean, you can tell this opening scene where she's finding out what her father left her, that he wouldn't have left her much. But you can also tell that her father probably didn't love her because of the way he named her.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
unkind. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
Nope. A lot of syllables.
It rolls right down a flight of stairs, is what it rolls. Kerrigan Crittenden is furious to learn her recently deceased father left her only Whipstaff Manor while donating his fortune to charity and pretty much every animal under the sun. When she and her lawyer Dibbs discover a map hinting at hidden treasure within the manor, they attempt to reclaim it, but are driven away by Casper and his mischievous ghostly uncles, the Ghostly Trio. After numerous failed attempts to remove the ghosts, Kerrigan hires Dr. James Harvey, a paranormal therapist, who moves into Whipstaff Manor. I keep saying Whipstaff Manor.
I was just gonna let it go.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't think it really matters.
Nothing matters.
I'm sure we have one person listening that's pulling this is the worst podcast ever. It's called Whipstiff. No, it's called Whipstaff. See, I even messed it up. Worst comment to the worst podcast ever.
And who keeps eating food while we're listening?
They have rubbed off on me. 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
Is our impersonation of our angry listener Dr. Bunsen Honeydew-esque?
Oh, I was going for comic book guy from Simpsons.
You were going for who?
Comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Comic book fight. Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I mean, we could try something different. You want to try something different?
No, you don't mess with success, my guy. Just keep going. This is great.
It's the 80th man.
He's implying a success that may not exist.
Oh, he's eating chips. Yeah, my name is Leon Phelps, and he's eating chips on the podcast. See, that's just nasty.
The only thing worse is when he smacks that desk.
Oh,
you'd think we'd already been told there was a snow day. I'm not sure where this is coming from.
This is gonna hurt tomorrow morning, man. It's just like.
All right.
Yes.
I've been happy and laughing, and I've got to go to school and get my anger face on, and the shield's up, and
have some.
Yes.
And right now, my own little personal Scotty is going to be saying, "I can't do it, Captain. The automation system's overloaded.
No.
I didn't expect to take us into battle." And I'm going to be like, "I'm sorry."
Is that like Johnny Cash's own personal Jesus? You have your own personal Scotty?
We do what we can.
Okay, so Super Bowl commercial, Depeche Mode, your own personal Jesus.
He offers you some scotch. It's someone to fill your cup, someone to beam you up. There you go.
I
I kind of do it. Are we going to make it through this podcast? I kind of do it, Captain.
I don't know.
I don't have the power.
We're teetering on the edge, that's for sure.
We're only in like the second major moment at this point, so.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Hours will seem like days.
Yes, if we're going by the book. Hours will seem like days. So
what are we doing again?
I don't know. Whatever the manor is called.
Something with Bill Pullman. It's Independence Day, right?
I think it's Independence Day. Yeah. There's people die. There's aliens. Something happens. I don't know.
Big speeches. Sure.
Yeah. Later on, I'm going to make comparisons between this movie and like The Goonies and Death Becomes Her. So sure, whatever you want to call it, it's totally fine. So yes, Dr. James Harvey is a paranormal therapist who moves into whatever it's called manor with his teenage daughter, Kat. Casper, having seen them on TV, is immediately smitten with Kat and ensures Kerrigan invites them there. Kat, however, resents her father's obsession with trying to communicate with his late wife, Amelia. Although Casper tries to introduce himself, his uncle's attempts to scare the Harveys make Kat skeptical. However, when Casper prepares breakfast for them, Kat begins to trust him. At school, she becomes popular after her classmates learn she lives in the Haunted Mansion, and she agrees to host their Halloween party there. Unbeknownst to her, her classmate Amber and her friend Vic plot to embarrass her.
Agrees to host a Halloween party at a house she's been in for like a week without checking with her father.
Without asking her dad, right? That's... As an adult, I sure as watching this as a kid, I was like, that's cool. And then watching this as an adult, I'm like, I have a lot of red flag questions here.
Oh, yes, I have questions.
Dr. Harvey attempts some therapy sessions with the ghostly trio, who reveal that they do know Amelia, his wife. They promise to let him speak to her in exchange for convincing Kerrigan to leave them alone. Meanwhile, Casper laments his lost memories, and Kat helps him rediscover his past by cleaning out his childhood playroom. One thing I didn't mention earlier, which I did want to mention real quick because I keep repeating the name Harvey, their last name is Harvey. It was actually the company Harvey Comics actually had the got the rights to the Casper the Friendly Ghost character in 1959, I believe, and started to add to the Casper universe. The cartoons, I want to say, came out in 1945. He was originally created in the 30s as a character for children's books. And then Paramount Pictures had a studio called Famous Studios, and they released the first Casper cartoon in 45. And then it was 1959, yes, that Harvey Comics got the rights to Casper and started adding new cartoons, comics, characters, and other stuff at that point. So I would imagine, a lot of some of the stuff we know as Casper the Friendly Ghost is probably thanks to Harvey Comics. They're probably one of the most well-known eras of Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Okay.
Let's see. So that's the Harveys. So Kat and Dr. Harvey, their last name comes from that. Casper recalls his life before death, remembering that he fell ill after playing outside with his sled and died of pneumonia because Balto didn't get there fast enough. He reveals his father built a machine called the Lazarus Pit, which Ra's al Ghul used to revive himself, and could bring a ghost back to life. Excited, he does take Kat to the basement, where they find the machine still intact, and the Goonies save the day. Kerrigan and Dibbs secretly follow Kat and Casper, stealing the Lazarus formula to grant themselves immortality. They attempt to kill each other to test it. That leads to Dibbs blowing a hole in Kerrigan's stomach, and Kerrigan trying to kill him with a spear. Instead, she crashes and falls to her death, becoming a ghost. Bruce Willis shows up, revives everybody, and they're all okay. The ghostly trio take Dr. Harvey out drinking, intending to kill him so he can join them permanently. However, after he drunkenly declares his will to get rid of Kerrigan for them, they change their minds. Unfortunately, Harvey accidentally falls to his death before they can stop him. It's very quickly turning into a Shakespeare play because everybody's dying up in this place.
Left, right, and center.
Now a ghost, Kerrigan demands to be revived, believing the treasure is inside the locked vault in the house. Casper and Kat trick her into admitting she has no unfinished business, causing her to be sucked into the afterlife. The treasure turns out to be a baseball signed by Duke Snyder, and when Dr. Harvey arrives as a ghost, Casper sacrifices his chance at life to bring him back instead. The mansion's Halloween party begins with Amber and Vic attempting to humiliate Kat. However, the ghostly trio scare them off instead. Meanwhile, Casper is granted human form for a short time by Amelia, who has become an angel. He dances with Kat, and they share a kiss. Let me stop here for just a real quick moment and ask you this whole, because I have comments about this whole thing where Casper has, kind of the hots for Kat. How did you feel about that?
It was weird.
Yeah, a little different. A little different.
It seemed a little strange to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was because when I think I've seen this movie probably a few times, closer to when it came out, but I have not seen this in close to at least 25-ish years. So I didn't necessarily remember that aspect of it. And most of when I think of Casper the Friendly Ghost, I'm thinking of the cartoon.
Yeah.
And Casper's, let's just say Casper's not pursuing any of his friends in the Casper the Friendly Ghost and his friends cartoons in that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seemed a little weird to have the cartoon ghost. Might have been different if that started when he took back his human form. But kind of the like cute, bulbous, pudgy Casper character as a ghost. It felt weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
I empathize.
Yeah. I mean, there is precedence for this.
Okay.
I mean, okay. I have a question for you guys, and this is
okay, John. Let's go. Let's go. What is it?
This may be awkward, but I feel like I need to ask it. Did you guys ever find Bugs Bunny attractive when he put on a dress and played a girl bunny?
No.
Why?
No, neither did I.
No.
No, neither did I. I was just asking. Okay. All right, moving on. Did they call school off yet? Did anybody find?
Oh, God. Keep waiting.
Uh-huh.
The Almighty has chosen e-learning.
Yeah. The mansion's Halloween party begins with Amber and Vic attempting to humiliate Kat. However, the ghostly trio scare them off instead. Meanwhile, Casper is granted human form for a short time. Oh, I already said this. Granted human time for a short time.
Wait, hang on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hang on. Casper's human form. Oh, did you say Stevenson is e-learning?
I did.
Oh.
Hey, all right.
Well,
okay, back to Casper's human form.
One step closer. We could turn this.
And I'm about to break everything you say to me. Okay,
there you go.
Sorry.
There you go. Amelia appears to Harvey, explaining that she has no unfinished business and is at peace. She reassures him that he and Kat will be okay, promising they will reunite one day. But doesn't bother to say hi to her daughter. But, that's okay. As the clock strikes 10, Casper returns to his ghostly form, accidentally scaring away the party guests. Despite this, Kat is happy, and the ghostly trio play Casper's theme song as the two dance together. Aww. All right. I think it's time to see if we have any deeper thoughts. Given this movie, I think the thoughts will be roughly 6 feet under. But let's see if we have any deeper thoughts.
And now, deep thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot.
Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
All right. We've already kind of started in on this just a bit, but I really enjoyed the adult part. Now when I'm watching this as an adult, I enjoyed the adult parts they brought into this. Having Father Guido Sarducci, having Ray Stantz show up, having the cameos by the different, celebrities here. Some of the jokes that are thrown in there, for the parents taking their kids to go see this in the theater. You've got a little bit of, as the movie goes on, I feel like we're mixing a little bit of Pee-wee's Big Adventure because we've got the house that has the crazy inventions in it. It feels a little Goonies-ish when we start to go down into the basement. It starts to feel a little bit like Death Becomes Her when everybody's killing each other and, they're immortal now and they can't be hurt. And, some of the physical comedy, slapsticky stuff is going on. So as I mentioned earlier, I feel like this movie did try to swing for the fences in a lot of ways. And overall, I don't think I have too many faults with the movie. I think it's a fun movie. Christina Ricci is great in it. It's a different enough character that she's been. I mean, I tend to think of her at this age as Wednesday Addams. And so for her to be more of like a bright, happy, kind of upbeat kid, she's still a little quirky because she lives in a haunted house and talks to ghosts, but she's not the same kind of almost very dark character that she is in, obviously, the Addams Family movies. And then even different enough from when she was little and she was in But yeah, it's just kind of a, she's definitely growing up at this point, and we've already said it. The part that I feel is a little bit of a knock on the movie and awkward enough is the way that Casper is has affectionate feelings for
Has the
her.
hots.
Yeah.
Has the hots for her.
Yeah.
And then they make such a big deal about him being an 11-year-old boy.
Yes.
Which makes it worse.
And are you perpetually an 11-year-old boy?
Yeah.
Right.
There's the dead Peter Pan thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or what was the name of the little girl vampire in the Interview with the Vampire? Whatever her name was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, that part to me was weird. I mean, it would have been less weird if it hadn't started until he was in human form, and maybe they gave him a little bit more time in human form.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're going to see Casper the Friendly Ghost, you're going to see that image of Casper as the cartoonish, bubble-headed ghost that you're used to seeing in the cartoons.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like they maybe tried to make it a little more serious.
Yeah. It's the dark and gritty Casper.
Mm-hmm.
Why so serious?
Do you think you or your brothers seen my mom? Her name is Amelia. Why did you say that name?
Oh boy.
What was your mom's name, Amelia? No, I don't think so, but I don't know. Why did you say that name? Yeah, I don't know. That's the weirdest part about this movie to me. The rest of it's fine. Like, the rest of it's fun. It's quirky. It's, it's the type of family movie like you would expect from this era, kind of a mid-90s movie that I think appeals to both parents who might have seen the Casper stuff when they were younger and kids who, I guess that's another question, I guess. I didn't even ask this one. When did you guys see this one first? And then I guess a follow-up would be, what was your, both then and now maybe, what was your exposure to Casper the Friendly Ghost? Like, did you watch the cartoons growing up as a kid? Were you familiar with them? If you saw this back in the 90s, were you going to the theater being like, hey, this is cool, I'm used to the cartoons, now they made a movie? So I guess there's my two questions that we didn't get to yet. When did you see this one? And did you have much background knowledge when it came to Casper when you watched this?
I'm going to guess not the theater, but, Blockbuster on the new release shelf.
Okay. Yeah. For this one.
For two reasons we would have seen it. We would have seen it for Casper because and I'd have to ask my brother to lock it in for sure, whether we were watching it on Saturday afternoons or mornings or whether it was an after school thing at that point. But we definitely watched the Casper cartoon a lot growing up. And, I'm not going to, back then, we might have, Bill Pullman would have been, it's Casper and Bill Pullman's in it and Christina Ricci's in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, this was going to be worth seeing. I know I liked it because when I saw it on the list of our movies for this year, I was like, oh, okay. That'll be a fun little trip down memory lane. And, we talk a lot about how rewatching a movie that we enjoyed as a kid, we're sometimes able to excuse its faults again because of our previous feelings.
Yeah.
And I think this hits the middle of that road for me. There were definitely things that I noticed and thought about this time that I guarantee I didn't back in 95. But at the same time, I was able to say, it was a kid's movie from the 90s based on a 50-year-old comic character.
Yeah.
Okay. The things I noticed didn't bother me, but I definitely noticed things I hadn't before.
Were you, when you went to go see this, because we would have been like 14?
Yeah.
When this came out, were you, honest question, were you going to see this for Casper or were you going to see this for Christina Ricci?
14-year-old me?
Yeah.
I think the answer might be yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I could go with yes on that one.
See all of the above.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, still a Christina Ricci fan.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Patrick, when did you see this one, and what's your background with the Casper character?
It was a little bit after it had been in the theater, approximately 30 years or so.
Okay.
I guess we should take it like it was only about a day ago that I saw this movie for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And my experience with the Casper character, I mean, I remember occasionally watching the cartoon, like I was aware of it. I can't tell you anything about the cartoon. Like if I start watching it again, I might be like, oh yeah, I remember that. But I wasn't, I mean, I knew of Casper the Friendly Ghost, but that was pretty much it. I remember when this came out, and I just remember people saying, yeah, it's different. Like, it's a different take on it. And I don't remember if that was so much like the idea of like a computer generated, main character type thing where you cross over with, animated and human characters, or if I just remember people saying, yeah, the story's different. This isn't like the cartoon Casper. It's a different kind of thing. So I remember people talking like that, but that was pretty much it. I never saw it. And I kind of like, I was aware of it, but never saw it. I guess I'll put it that way. And I think, and I say this with no, what am I trying to say? Like, this is not like a passive aggressive, like hinting at anything, but I think what this might be exposing is how we've talked so often before that at a certain point, ages are very close together. Like right now, us being probably what I think maybe about 3 years difference is not like, that's hardly a blip, right?
Right.
But like 30 years ago, the difference between someone that's, what would you guys say, 14 or 15, and then someone that was 17 or 18, that's enough years that, that's going to be a different, you know what I'm saying? Because these things, there's really like a pretty fine dividing line on them. And so that's why I think I was just aged out. And so I just didn't, I just didn't have an interest in it. I'll put it that way. But again, I'm not in any way, shape or form belittling Casper, the cartoon, or this movie, because I just think the ages were different enough. What do I think about it? I thought it was fun. I thought there was a couple things in there that were, it was a little bit trite in some cases, but it was like, okay, this doesn't need to be some big, heavy, like doom and gloom story. I kind of felt like they were going for, an Addams Family kind of, like you said, the mid 90s. I almost felt like overtones of like a Beetlejuice, Addams Family, like that kind of dark story. It's interesting to think about what would happen if it was, who did they want to have do it? He did Batman.
Tim Burton.
Not Danny Elf. Tim Burton. It would be interesting to see what like the Tim Burton take would be on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that being said, I thought it was a fun story. I didn't get weirded out with the fact that he had the hots for what's her name, because like I said, that's almost like part of that Peter Pan story, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of see that explored a little bit in Hook, spoilers, but you see a little bit of that in Hook with Tinkerbell, kind of has the hots for Peter Pan.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true.
And so, I think that was just...
And traditionally Peter to Wendy.
Right, and traditionally Peter to Wendy. But I think that almost just seems to kind of fit with what was happening with movies back then, is like you take cartoon property and somehow make it a little bit darker for the big screen.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm trying to think of like another example of where that would happen, but...
No, and until you mentioned Peter Pan, I wasn't thinking about that. But so I guess it is kind of, it's not that far off. I guess I think of Casper as being like a little kid's cartoon.
Right.
And so, and even, I don't know, even the Disney Peter Pan cartoon, sure, it's a kid's cartoon, but I mean, there's a few things here and there in it that are a little on the older kid side.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's just my history with watching Casper. I think of Casper as being far more innocent than that, and so maybe that's why it hit me differently. But until you mentioned Peter Pan, I'm like, well, yeah, actually, and Peter Pan is kind of the same thing. So yeah, I'm sure it makes sense. I think it makes sense for the time period. It makes sense for the movie they were trying to do. Christina Ricci's character is is a teenager or teenager-esque, as opposed to, from what I recall in the Casper cartoon, all of his friends were, I think they were like young kids. So yeah, it makes sense for the updating of it. I think it seemed, as I was watching it this time, it just seemed a little weird.
No, yeah, I hear you. Well, and I mean, maybe modern movies do it now, but like it almost seems like that was bigger then. You would take a movie and when you remake it, you change the tone of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. Do they do that now with movies? Like,
oh yeah.
And this is going to be a weird one, but I think of like Dragnet. And now I know that's totally 80s, but they remade it and now suddenly it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know that we can say, oh, it's closer to the comic book, but you know, they did 89 Batman.
Right.
Well, that was different than the Batman that everybody knew from the campy 1960s thing.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, and I'm thinking now, I don't feel like that kind of stuff happens. And I'm sure I'm missing all these examples of current examples, but I feel like now we want to do a remake, not a reboot. We want to like remake exactly, but like live action. You know what I'm saying? Like all the cartoon properties, we want to do exactly what we did with the cartoon and make it live action.
Right.
Whereas back then, I feel like when you remade movies, you would remake the movie, but you would somehow change it. You'd alter it. You'd make it different somehow.
Yeah. Is there anything, this question is for all of us, is there anything about this movie, I mentioned that, you know, for the most part, this movie works for me. I think it's quirky enough. It's fun. It's, I think, a good balance between adults being able to enjoy it, kids being able to enjoy it. Is there anything that just really does not work for you? I think for me, the only thing would be just my feelings towards that little weird dynamic, and that's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. I still had fun watching this movie, you know, so it's not a big deal for me. Yeah, beyond that, I can't think of anything really that doesn't work for me in the movie. Like, that doesn't mean I'm giving this movie, you know, 5 out of 5 stars, but I think that's really about the only thing. Was there anything in the movie that just was not working for you at all?
Excuse me, not that I can think of. I'm sort of with you on this one. Like, yeah, there are some challenges, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say, if you like The Addams Family, if you like Beetlejuice, if you like, in a modern sense, if you like Wednesday, right, television show,
yep.
If you, I think you'll like this.
Yeah.
There's really no like dark and evil monsters, you know, but yeah, I think it's just kind of a fun, creepy, kind of offbeat, got a good little message in it. Yeah.
And his treasure turns out to be his baseball. And,
you know, with all the baseball movies we watched, this podcast is in favor of a baseball as treasure.
That is true. That is true. We've got a question coming up in the 3 questions about, are there any cameos that are missed opportunities that they did not bring somebody in? Could have brought in the ghost baseball players from Field of Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Could have totally done that. That would have fit in with the baseball theme. So, all right. Anything else we want to say about Casper before we hop into our 3 questions, our ghostly trio of questions? Fun movie. As Pat said, if you like some of those others, I think you'll like this one. So it's definitely worth checking out. I did not get a chance to watch this with the kids, but I think they would enjoy it if they have not seen it already.
Yeah, it's, you know, we're getting into the era of movies where it can appeal to a modern audience on its own.
Yeah.
I think we're getting, I'm not saying we shouldn't ask the question if they hold up. They are still 30 years old, but I think less and less that's going to be as glaring.
Right. Yeah.
As it is or has been.
Well, I'm already looking ahead to next month, and I'm like, I feel like I'm going to watch a lot of these with Nora.
Oh yeah,
next month,
I have to admit,
next month is like Clueless and Empire Records and Mallrats, and yeah.
My lovely wife is very excited for next month.
Okay.
She's where most of the time she says, what are you watching this weekend? And I'll tell her. She'll be like, nah.
Pass.
Yeah, she is in on most of next month.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Well, you got to get through Kids Month to get to the teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You must grow.
That's true. That's true. All right. It's time for a ghostly trio of questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, question number 1. Are we having school tomorrow?
So far.
All right.
So far, we are still monitoring the situation.
Okay, I don't like that answer. New question number 1. Casper's a friendly ghost, but what if he haunted your house? What's the first rule that you would lay down for him?
Oh.
My answer and my wife's answer were almost exactly the same. I'm laying down vampire rules. No entering a room without permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably
Good
a safe
rule.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were unclear in this movie of how far these ghosts are allowed to roam. Because Casper flies away to get the newspaper.
Yeah, the uncles seem to be able to go anywhere they want.
Yeah, so maybe there's another rule there in don't follow me to work. Like,
right.
You know?
I don't want your head popping up out of the toilet.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Ghoulies,
That's creepy.
Ghoulies style. Wasn't that the VHS cover with the little gremlin thing coming out of the toilet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good rules.
Yeah.
I mean, act like the house ghosts in Harry Potter, and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
There you
Start to get mischievous and all this kind of stuff, and then it's just like, yeah, come on, man. We're not. No. Yeah. We're not going there.
All right. Question number 2. Casper just wants a friend. What's the most unexpectedly kind thing someone has ever done for you?
Called off school.
That's the answer that wins. Question number 3. Gee, it's not like something's preoccupying our thoughts tonight.
Yeah.
I will say, like, there's a few times I can think of some unexpectedly kind things that somebody has done, but I do want to. I'll do this one on the podcast because it's a bit of a shout out for a friend and co-host of ours, Mr. Jeff Mazuka. And Mr. Jeff Mazuka, I will take back at least 90% of the things I've ever said about him.
Wow.
That's how generous I am. Mr. Jeff Mazuka, there was a moment in time where a movie that I absolutely loved was about to come out on Blu-ray. And at the time, I was unable to afford said Blu-ray. And so I was like, oh, man, I really, really want to get a copy of this, but I just can't. I can't swing the $30 or whatever it might have been to pick up the Blu-ray at that point. Mr. Jeff Mazuka showed up at school one of the next days and had purchased a copy of, and I think it was like the collector's edition copy of Man of Steel on Blu-ray and had given it to me.
Wow.
So that's
a true mensch there.
That was a true mensch. A true mensch. So, Mr. Jeff Mazuka, thank you from the bottom of what is often my cold, black, dead heart. I thank you. Mm-hmm. It was very kind. Much appreciated and very kind.
Nice.
I'll give a shout out to another one of our colleagues who's not here tonight, Mr. Dennis Matuch. In going through some stuff.
Did he loan you his walker when you had hurt yourself?
Oh, jeez.
He would. Okay. He would if I needed it, I'm sure. There were some.
Dennis is the kind of guy that would give you the Bengay off his back.
Indeed. I hear he owns stock. Yeah. Because he knows.
Love you, Dennis.
He knows it's a recession-proof business.
Right, yeah.
Now, he was going through some old family boxes, and he came across some signed pictures of oh Lord, I believe one's Nichelle Nichols and another one is, I'm gonna feel terrible right now because they're upstairs and I don't remember who the other one is.
Oh yeah,
but they were signed autographed pictures that he probably could have gotten some money for, but he knew that I would appreciate them.
Yeah,
and gifted them to me, and
that's cool.
It was very special.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna continue on with the. I was gonna continue on with the Love Fest, but I'm gonna continue in Love Fest footsteps here with the Love Fest that we're having for our co-hosts. And I just want to say that a number of years ago when my mom passed, and it was kind of a sudden deal. It was a pretty rough deal, and not a lot of people at school knew exactly what was going on because her situation deteriorated so rapidly. I mean, I had just about enough time to kind of let people know, hey, this is what's going on. And then it was almost literally the next week that she passed. And I remember I was walking back. It was after jazz band. And then I think I got a call from, my dad, hey, you better get up to the house and, so on and so forth. And, we all know how those phone calls and all that goes. And I was kind of walking a little bit shell-shocked back across the cafeteria. And Jeff was walking, and, whenever we see each other at school, we usually, it's joking and talking, moving, and all. He came up and without missing a beat, he's just like, what happened? And I just said, hey man, here's the situation. And he goes, you go take care of you go to the office. I've got the band. And that was it, because I was kind of in a little bit of, I was trying to talk to my dad on the phone and had to go basically let the admin know what was happening and the whole thing. And just, to just have him drop everything and be like, yep, I've got the band, all good, which not every sub would willingly go in and say, I've got the band. I mean, that's kind of like saying, I'll go ahead and climb over the trench and run through no man's land. But Jeff, awesome musician, and he can direct a band and do all that kind of stuff very well. And so he jumped up and did that. And boy, that was a pretty special thing, in a moment of need. And that was pretty awesome. And I'll tell you what, you were talking about Dennis. It was just, a couple of years ago, and we were up running. There's a series of races up in Wisconsin, series of trail races that this gentleman up in Wisconsin puts on, and they're a lot of fun. And, he'll find trails and paths, and it's just, kind of runs out in nature, and he just wants people to get together and have fun and all that kind of stuff. And it's one of those where you get to kind of pick the distance that you want to go. Every race is one lap is 3 or 4 miles, and then you can do as many laps as you want and so forth. And he was doing a winter one. And I want to say that I think the air temp was -10, not counting wind chill. And so it was a little chilly. And so we were all up there running, and Dominic elected to come running with me, and Dennis was up there, and Autumn was running. And it was a pretty cool thing. But I was electing to go a certain number of laps, and Dominic did one of them with me. And then Dennis was running his thing, and, Dominic got done. And it was, kind of in my mind, I was like, yeah, and then I'm going to run, because I was running this other distance, and I was going to get there. And, he and Tammy and Daniela were all going to be hanging out back at the lodge, and it was going to be yeah, cheering for Dad. And, you get into those silly things and all that. But it was just bloody cold. And I remember that I came through on my second lap, and Tammy's like, yeah, we're all it's -10. We're all freezing. There was a lodge and everything, but, Daniela, this was a couple of years ago, and she's like, yeah, we're probably just going to go warm up and head home. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So I was going off. And again, it's snowing, so you're kind of going through ankle-deep snow, running through the woods and all the thing. And I was had this grand plan of what I was going to run. And then suddenly it just all started to fall apart. And I was getting tired. And then all of a sudden, all the negative thoughts were coming in. And, things were starting to crumble pretty fast. Crumbled faster than the Kansas City offense last Sunday. But I mean, it was not going well. And I knew Dennis was still there, but he did 1 or 2 laps, and then he was going to take pictures. He was going to do something else. Anyways, I was up, and it felt like I was the only guy still running through this course. And, it was starting to feel lonely. It's okay, the family took off. What am I doing out here? I don't, and all those negative thoughts come up. And I turn the corner, and I'm right in the middle of the backwoods, and there was Dennis, just appeared right in the middle of the trail. And he was hanging out, and he was getting kind of loosened up. And he looked up, and he gave me this look, and right in my moment where I was crumbling, and starting to fall apart. He just gave me this look, and in a second, that look said, "No, you're not stopping. I've got no pity and no sympathy. We're going to finish this thing." And he just looked up and he said, "Hey, I'm feeling good. I'm going to do another lap. I'm going to run your last lap with you. What's your pace?" And I'm like, I just kind of, he's just like, "Yeah, well, we're going to go faster than that. Let's go." And so it was pretty cool. And, right in your moment of need when the walls are kind of closing in and all that kind of stuff. And he just, like I said, he just appeared there. Very much like that morning of my mom's passing when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with, and all that. And Jeff just appeared there. And so, I'm going to continue on your traditions there, or your traditions. You're setting the tone by thanking our co-hosts. I've got a couple of stories of just how those guys just, pretty cool acts of kindness there. They're very unexpected, but very appreciated.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that goes to show how there's different strokes for different folks, because somebody showing up and telling me you're going to run another lap is not the most unexpectedly kind thing someone has ever done for me.
Indeed.
So, but Pat, I love that for you.
Okay. Well, I'm glad, man. Yeah. I'm glad.
No, those are awesome stories. All right, number 3. There are several celebrity cameos in this movie. What's the biggest missed opportunity cameo that they didn't bring in for this film? This was a tough one for me to narrow down. My wife had an excellent answer that was adjacent to one of the things I was going to answer, but I really, really like hers. But I'll save that and let you guys go first on some of yours. Who should have shown up? What celebrity or what character should have shown up in this movie that did not show up?
I'll jump in there. I thought about all sorts of outlandish and fun things that it could have been. But, especially after hearing they were thinking about Tim Burton, I think Beetlejuice would have been awesome.
Beetlejuice was one of my runner-up options. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Because especially they're calling in a paranormal therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not maybe at first try to call in another paranormal expert and see if you could see if you could do something with the ghost there? That would have been fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say you play up the ghost theme even more, and you bring in Slimer.
Oh yeah,
that'd be good. Maybe Slimer likes to get drunk with the uncles.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
he's their drinking buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah. That's it.
That's when they go out to the bar and Slimer's sitting at the end of the bar, kind of like a Norm character,
watching a football game, eating some beer nuts.
Yep.
Yes.
That would have been outstanding. One of my first original thoughts was Patrick Swayze.
There you go.
But I like my wife's option better because she said Whoopi Goldberg, and to me that maybe makes a little bit more sense because Whoopi was the one that could see the ghosts.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that one makes a little bit more sense. The answer I'm ultimately going to go with, and this would have been more for like the parents going to the movie theater and taking their kids to see this. I would have loved to have seen, and maybe because they're moving into this house, maybe they need some kind of like a real estate developer to help them with something, or maybe there's something to do with the architecture. And I would have brought in a Craig T. Nelson from Poltergeist.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
That's who I would have.
Good call.
A quick little cameo. Maybe he goes into the house, he sees or hears something, and he's just like, nope, and walks right out.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bit akin to the scene at the end of Poltergeist where they go to the motel, they close the door, they open it back up, and they wheel the TV out onto the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
And they close the door behind it. It's like, nope, no more TVs ever again, not ever. So all excellent, and would have been hilarious had they ended up in the movie. I think they did have some great, and the Father Guido Sarducci I think was the absolute unexpected one, but that was awesome. Like that, this movie gains a lot of points by having that little cameo in it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for Casper. Casper, the Friendly Ghost. This has been the 30-something movie podcast. 30podcast.com is our website. We are on a bunch of the different social media spots. If you just search for 30 podcast on spots like Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all that stuff, we are there. This is Kids Month. Month of February is Kids Month. Our Patreon episode, if you're on Patreon with us, our Patreon episode was Balto from 1995. Our Patreon short, which at time of recording this, I believe that's coming out just in a few days, is Captain America Brave New World. So looking forward to getting a chance to go check that one out. And then this month, our movies have been Toy Story, Pocahontas, Casper, Babe is next week. And then we'll finish off the month with E.T. the Extraterrestrial as part of our 10th anniversary rewatch movies. And we're going to try to get Podrick, one of our Patreon folks, to come jump on that one with us. And that'll be a lot of fun. So, well, Pat, thank you as always for being here.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
All right, everybody. Be excellent to each other. Go haunt some houses. And we'll see you back here next time.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen.